Hi, I'm Johnny Massacre and welcome to my channel. Guess what? A disease has come from China and it's everywhere and it's kind of deadly and loads of people are dying and the economy is sinking down into a black hole and everyone's losing their jobs and everyone has to stay at home or they're going to get arrested. Yay! My last video was 3 months ago and it was about Star Wars. I did a review of Rise of Skywalker and how times have changed. To be honest, I don't really want to talk about the coronavirus, but look, I did a poll and I said, cooking up a new video. Honest question, do you want to see me cover COVID-19 in any way, shape or form? Or do you just want to see a video about movies, current affairs, and of course me ranting? 59% of you voted yes, give me your anecdotal, unprofessional opinion on COVID-19. 41% of you said no, I'm tired of people capitalizing on the virus for clicks. So you asked for it, you're going to get it. Where to start with this fucking shit show? Like, what's going on? what the fuck's happening? This isn't real. It's weird because all the science fiction movies about this were so accurate. The way they visualized what the world would be like if there's a disease. The thing that's really fucked up about this is it's not really that deadly. It seems to be deadlier than the flu, about 4 or 5 times more deadly. But it's not that deadly, which almost kind of makes it worse because we're tanking the world economy for something that's not that deadly. But we can't let grandpa and grandma end up on a ventilator. So we've all got to stay at home. It's really bizarre situation. So, oh man, let's just get to it. I've got a shit ton of notes and I'm going to tell you everything I know. So let's do a little recap to start off with. Yeah, let's do a recap of what the fuck happened and what is happening now. So rolling up my sleeves for this one. So, December the 30th, 2019, a Chinese doctor warned the World Health Organization about coronavirus and said it could be dangerous. China censored that doctor and then he died. Sounds like the start to a bad B movie, but no, this is real. Now check this. Taiwanese officials warned the World Health Organization on December the 31st. The next day, there was evidence the disease could be transmitted from human to human. So last year at the tail end, Taiwan already knew it could be transmitted from human to human. China definitely knew. They censor everything because they're massive cunts. Fast forward 2 weeks, January 14th. The World Health Organization tweeted that preliminary investigations conducted by the Chinese had found no clear evidence of human-to-human transition, even though Taiwan warned about it 2 weeks before, and China knew about it way before then. So China weren't telling anyone that this disease is very, very infectious, and the World Health Organization said that there was no evidence of there being any human-to-human transition. It gets worse. A week later, January 22nd and January 23rd, the World Health Organization, who I might add, has one fucking job, and that job is to warn the world of a global pandemic that's going to fuck everyone up. They had a committee meeting and debated COVID-19 and whether to announce it as a public health emergency or international concern. But they didn't. Then the Director General of WHO went to China for political meetings, holding off announcing it as a pandemic because China, like all communist countries, likes to rewrite history and is obsessed with maintaining their perfect utopian image at the expense of the health of their people. Socialist and communist countries always have famines. Their people always get sick. They have a history of death and killing their people. And China is no different. And guess what? They got loads of money, so they're paying off the World Health Organization not to tell the truth, so the rest of us don't die and the world economy doesn't tank. They're paying them off. You don't think they're paying them off? What about Disney? What about Hollywood censoring all their movies for the Chinese market? But we'll get to that. Corona. Then on the 30th of January, at the end of all of this, months later, after his trip to Beijing, that's when the Director General of the World Health Organization recommended to limit trade and movement. Just limit it, that's all. Now, Trump ignored this advice, thank God, and stopped all flights from China. And in early February, Trump placed the travel ban. Corona. Then, The Director General of WHO criticized the USA for saying that banning flights from China will interfere with international trade and travel. So the World Health Organization is cussing Trump for closing its borders to try to stop this pandemic. They had one fucking job, the WHO, and they fucked it up. So really, not too long ago, at this time, Cuomo, the mayor of New York City, was saying to go out and eat downtown. Bill de Blasio had all of the schools open. Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat skeletal-looking hag, said, bring your friends to Chinatown and go to the bars, because they're more concerned with identity politics than saving the lives of their own people. Joe Biden, who's probably going to be running against Trump for the presidency, said the travel ban was racist. So I don't want to politicize this too much, but I'm going to politicize it, because the Democrats, the left wing, whatever Trump says, they will do the opposite. If Trump says breathe, they will tell everyone not to breathe. If Trump says we shouldn't go to war with this country, they will say go to war. It's fucking dangerous. So if Trump does a travel ban, they'll say it's racist, go to Chinatown, and you get the disease. This is how fucked up the Democrats are right now. Jesus Christ. We're just scratching the surface of this political clusterfuck, believe me. So what happened next? The Director General of WHO on March the 20th praised China for doing such a good job with the coronavirus. How terrifying is this? China can buy out our own fucking free countrymen like that. Is this a problem, people? The entire world was listening to WHO for advice, and they're praising China. And then China did what they've always done. They care more about their image than the health of their citizens. And they didn't tell anyone what was going on. WHO is in their pockets, and so thousands and thousands of people have died that probably didn't need to die and shouldn't have died. And people out there are defending China. It's just fucking unbelievable. So the crazy thing is, Taiwan, who basically blew the whistle on all of this on December the 31st, they're not even allowed into the WHO because China's bought the WHO, and China doesn't recognize Taiwan as a country. China thinks Taiwan is part of China. They're evil communist expansionist motherfuckers, and they want to take everyone over. And Taiwan can't even come into the WHO, even though they're the ones who blew the whistle, and they have one of the lowest rates of infection, and they know what they're doing. This is how much of a clusterfuck this is. Taiwan aren't even allowed into the UN because of China. China are they just going to buy everyone out? Disgusting. So yeah, as I said, you know who else feeds from the trough of China is Disney and Hollywood. They've made this okay. Just Google it. You know, the same people who say Trump is Hitler are giving a pass to the real communists who are China. You know, Trump called the disease the Chinese virus, and then people were getting all offended about it. Man, China created this shit. The Chinese government are massive fucking cunts. Screw all that shit. Here's a scary thought. Now we're coming to present day. Everyone's dying and infection rates are spiraling. China produces half of the world's sanitary masks. Also, China produces most of the active pharmaceutical ingredients in the world. A communist country who would put you in a gulag in a fucking heartbeat if they had the opportunity. We've entrusted them with this power, while the left is being nicey to them and saying, don't call it the Chinese virus. Look, globalism has failed. The only one who can take care of you is you. You need to get your house in order. America needs to get its house in order. Japan needs to get its house in order. The UK definitely needs to get its fucking house in order. Globalism, to an extent, great. We're going to make loads of money. But to rely on communist countries like China, who are not telling you about this killer disease that's going to destroy the world economy and might ruin people's lives for a generation, you're going to rely on them. That shit's foolish. That's very foolish. And think about it. If there was a war one day, we would fucking implode. You know, China could, at any given time, pull all of these resources and we'd be fucked. So look, coming to present day, we need to hold China accountable when this all blows over. Hopefully it will blow over. We need to put penalties on them, financial penalties. We need to make sure we're not reliant on them. And then we need to start a new relationship with them. China, and when I say China, I mean the Chinese Communist Party, the rulers, are fucking cunts. They imprison about 1 million Muslims and try to brainwash them and try to make them give up their religion. I'm no fan of Islam, but you can't do that shit. That's World War II level shit. So it's funny because a lot of people are saying on TV, we'll come back stronger from this. Don't worry, everything's going to be all right, with no evidence at all. You know, having faith is one thing, but we have to be realist about this. We've got to look at the stats and we just have to deal with it. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So, right, that's my intro to the coronavirus. Let's get on to some facts because we need the facts. So brace yourself for this. The US states were reporting more than 367,758 cases of coronavirus. There were 241,000 last Thursday. So in the space of 4 days, 100,000 more people have gotten coronavirus. And America has almost a quarter of confirmed cases in the world. More than 1,000 US deaths are being reported daily for the last 4 or 5 days, bringing the total American deaths as of 7th of April to more than 10,000. There are 1,359,000 worldwide cases of coronavirus, and 75,000 people have died so far of coronavirus. A record 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment last week. That's an eye-watering figure. Corona. This highlights the dire effects of the coronavirus shutdowns on the US economy. The past 2 weeks of turmoil have erased all job gains since President Trump's 2016 election. 6.6 million people filed for unemployment, and we're just getting started. And think about all the companies that are going to fold, and when they do, millions more will be unemployed. And then think of the lack of money in general that people have that can't be put into the economy. But we're going to get to that. More stats. In only 2 weeks, basically 10 million US jobs have vanished, and there's going to be a shitload more. And hospitals are reporting some critical medicines are beginning to run low. My friend has a skin problem. He tried to order his skin drugs last week. You know what they said? Sorry, but India makes the drugs. India and China basically make all the drugs, and India's fucked because of corona, so you can't get your drugs. So who knows where the fuck is this going? Who knows where the fuck this is going? So, in the beginning, the media basically said that Trump should have been on top of all of this in late Jan. We're going to start getting political now. The media have been caning Trump relentlessly. And yeah, of course, Trump should have been on top of it by then. But also, 3 administrations before Trump ignored requests for building up ventilator and hospital bed capacity. So it's not all Trump's fault. Also, Democrats were downplaying this at the same time as Trump, 100%. Democrats were not calling for a full lockdown in late Jan. Look it up. It is true. As I said, when Trump issued the China travel ban, Democrats were saying it's racist. And they didn't want a travel ban. So they just do the opposite of what Trump does. And if they were in power and Trump said, hey, we should have a lockdown, they would not have a lockdown and loads of people would die. That's how fucked up the Democrats are right now. I'm not saying the Republicans aren't fucked up. They've also done some fucked up shit. They also downplayed it. But I'm just telling you what's going on. If Trump, issues a lockdown, do you think left-wingers would have agreed? Basically, they're never going to agree. There was a lot of false reporting about how this virus is the same as the flu. A lot of people said that to me in the beginning. People are in denial. People don't want to believe it's true. People want to look like they're in the know. Everyone does this when these crises happen. Vox ran pieces in late January about how the coronavirus was just a seasonal flu. So Vox has deleted all these tweets. But let me bring your eyes to this tweet by Vox.com. They said, what is this hashtag coronavirus? It's part of a family of viruses that attack the respiratory system. Should I travel during the outbreak? The CDC and the State Department advise avoiding travel to China for now. Is this going to be a deadly pandemic? No. That's what Vox Vox.com said, a left-wing screed. They also said plenty of other fucked up stuff. Cast your eyes back to my screen once again. Vox said the coronavirus exposes the history of racism and cleanliness. Now, this shit really pisses me off. Now is not the time to use a worldwide crisis that's killing people as an excuse to push your political ideology and dogma about intersectional politics. Fuck you, Vox. Another tweet by Vox that they've deleted. Instead of using airport screening and entertaining plans to seal borders, governments of the world should focus their attention and resources on educating travelers about this coronavirus and helping China respond to the outbreak. Left-wingers are such bitches. They are such pussies. Seriously. China has unleashed a virus on our fucking free world and is tanking our economy and is killing our people. And then people on the left are just saying, be nice to China, help China. The people on the left, right, the far left, and a lot of the left at large, let's be honest nowadays, because they're brainwashed by the far left, they're the kind of people that if someone came up to them and kicked them in the balls, they'd apologise and say, sorry, did I hurt your foot? Fuck all that shit. Fuck all that shit. Who the fuck's going to help China now? China taking the piss with this. China are responsible for swine flu, bird flu, H1N1, SARS, MERS, take your fucking pick, and now the coronavirus. And we're going to be nice to them because they keep doing this shit? Fuck that shit. Fuck the Chinese Communist Party. Seriously. Fuck them. Stand up for yourself. Stop being such bitches. Another tweet from Vox is as follows. They said, while more than 100 people have died in the hashtag coronavirus outbreak, seasonal flu kills between 250,000 and 650,000 people annually. For most people, you're probably more likely to be catching flu than you are to be getting coronavirus. That's what Vox said. So, yeah, I don't think you should ever listen to Vox ever again, personally. Okay, so we're still just getting started, people. Right, what happened next? So Trump also compared this to the flu, to be fair. Trump did. In the beginning, Trump downplayed it massively. I saw him on TV doing it. This was right at the beginning, and he was doing his thing where he's just constantly bigging up America, saying how there's way more cases in other parts of the globe, but look how well America's doing it, and it's just the flu. This is not just the flu, people. It spreads more than the flu, and it is definitely deadlier than the flu. Although, if you look at the numbers of people infected, those are only the people who've been measured as being infected by the government. People estimate there's probably 5 to 10 times more people infected. So if you take all the people that haven't been diagnosed with coronavirus and you tally it to the deaths, a lot of people are saying it's around 1%. Or maybe less than 1. Some people say it's a bit more. Some people say it's a bit less. But I think by all accounts, all experts are saying that it's deadlier than the flu. Interesting thing for me is when other countries were getting really fucked up, America still wasn't taking heavy preventative measures. It's only when the corona deaths started to spike and then people started getting afraid that the hospitals would be overwhelmed did you start seeing people taking measures. I live in Japan, right? If you didn't already know. And in Japan, we only went into lockdown today on 7th of April. Literally. Why? If you just go into lockdown earlier, the spike is going to be much less dynamic, less people are going to die. If one thing this virus has showed me, it's that people have no sense of long-term gains. People always take the quick, easy option. My philosophy is difficult choice, easy life. Easy choice, difficult life. There have been people packing the bars in Tokyo next to my studio every day, even when the government was begging them to lock down. Corona. And it just goes to show you, these people, they're probably going to lose a shitload of money now that the city's going to lock down. So if you didn't enjoy those beers for 1 or 2 days, then you would be enjoying far more days of freedom. But people always take the easy choice. That's one thing I've learned from seeing this crazy virus. So yeah, the flu kills 58,000 people in a bad year in the States. 75,000 people so far have died of coronavirus and about 10,000 in the States. So 10,000 people have died of coronavirus, 58,000 died from flu in a bad year. So that puts things into perspective, but a lot more people are going to die. So let's just keep our ear to the ground for those numbers. Here's some more stats for you. 600,000 people die every year from heart disease. Cancer is similar, around 500 to 600,000 people die from cancer. And the US projects 100,000 to 240,000 could die from coronavirus. Excuse me. Fucking hell, this is Sahi, mate, going right through. But there's still a lot of uncertainty in the modelling. So, for example, there's crazy variation between the models between Italy and Germany. Per capita deaths per 1 million population vary wildly. There's 20 times more deaths in Italy than the United States. Deaths per capita deaths per 1 million. And basically nobody knows what the fuck is happening right now because all the models are so skewed. These stats are with heavy mitigation levels, by the way, I want to add. And none of these models are talking about a second wave. So all of these models basically go through to May, June, July, up to basically August, and then they finish. But what happens after that? It's not as if the virus is necessarily just going to go away. And we haven't discussed that, which is extremely concerning, because if the models are correct, you're going to have this peak, we're going to flatten the curve by social distancing and being in quarantine. Okay. And if they just disappeared after that, great, we're fixed. But they're not going to disappear, right? Because already in Asia, there's kind of a second wave. China apparently reported no new deaths today. But guess what? You can't travel to China. You can't even go there. They're not letting any people in. So we can't trust what the fuck they're saying about their stats. So you can't tell me they're not having a second wave when they're banning people from coming into their country. And they just shut down movie theaters again about 3 days ago. So when we do get to the end of these models, what the fuck happens then? If this shit comes back, we going into quarantine again? Then everyone's going to lose their job and the economy will disappear and we're going to be getting fucking food from bread lines for the rest of our life. Like, what the fuck? We can't just continuously stay indoors. And this is the catch-22. We stay indoors and it goes away temporarily and we basically become broke, or we go outside and we don't become broke, but we get infected and loads of people die. It's a real serious catch-22. Anyways, deaths in America are predicted to peak around April the 14th. So if you're paying attention, I said there's around 1,000 deaths a day in America. So we're going to see about 14,000 people die. Well, actually, it's April the 7th now, so the next 7 days. So we're basically a week away from predicted death peaks in America, judging by current models, which I've already explained are quite unreliable. So around 7,000 more people are likely to die in America. And yeah, that's what's going on, basically. And all of these stats are not fixed. Even the White House pressers are explaining models are as good as the assumptions you put into them. And then when more data is received, that's put into the model and the stats change. So we have to keep on top of the numbers frequently. The government's also saying that there are inklings of daily increases, are saying that there are inklings of daily increases are not in a steep incline, which basically means it's starting to taper off the corona deaths. And maybe the curve is flattening out. But people aren't sure right now. Italy believes their curve is flattening after 3 weeks of quarantine and are arriving at the plateau. I will show you all these graphs later. I can't really see much of that from the American data. It's just a rocket, a straight line going straight up to the right. But Italy does look like it's kind of plateauing a little bit, thank God. There's new CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention data that says the most at risk are those suffering with pre-existing conditions, lung disease, heart disease, diabetes, chronic renal disease, pregnancy, current or former smoker status. 78% of people have underlying health problems who die from coronavirus. And that's consistent with all reports from all countries. So that's kind of reassuring if you don't have any underlying health issues. And look, this lockdown cannot last indefinitely. We can't be in August when everyone is still quarantined in their house. Unemployment during the Great Depression was something like 28%. People are predicting if this continues, unemployment will go above 30%. You can't just shut down the economy indefinitely. It's just not going to work. As I said, Asia has a new wave of virus cases, and this isn't going to go away soon. So at some point, we're going to have to work out who's in the herd immunity and who's in the high risk bracket, and then we're going to have to go back to work. And China is already doing this with applications on people's phones, which says whether they've got herd immunity or if they have the disease or not. And believe me, we're going to get into the politics of this soon, because there's a lot of people calling for socialism across the board. Never let a crisis go to waste. Whenever there's a crisis like a war or a famine or a disease, there's always a load of fascistic people. And I don't throw around the term fascist lightly. There's a load of fascistic people who try to capitalize on people's fear and crises to push forward their ideological dogma and fuck up the world. And that's what people are trying to do right now. So one silver lining from all of this is the reduced amount of pollution. You can look at graphs online that show heat maps of pollution. I'll show you one here. So this is China during lockdown, and there's no heat signature whatsoever. And this is before lockdown, and there's a massive heat signature. And that's showing a reduction in pollutants for most of February. So that shit's kind of crazy. And it's just saying to me that there are too many people on planet Earth. We're using too many resources. And we've got to a point where we're living in such a bizarre state of decadence. We're eating and selling wild animals in densely populated areas. Diseases transmit super fast. And we're just seeing the effects of that. The human race is kind of like a virus, right? We're destroying the earth. When we stay away from the earth, all the pollution goes away and things start to heal. I don't know if you've seen the movie Matrix. You probably have, but there's a scene in that where Agent Smith, the antagonist, is fucking over the protagonist, Keanu Reeves, Neo. And he says, humans are like a virus. You know, they go from one place to the next using up all the resources. And that heat map kind of shows you that it's true. When humans go away, the earth gets better. And when humans go away, there won't be any of these horrible pandemic diseases. There's just too many fucking people. And I'm all for capitalism. But the problem with capitalism is it's just relentless expansion that knows no limits. And it's always on the edge of failure, right? Nobody has enough money to save more than a month, right? Small businesses, they can only live month to month. And so this capitalist expansionist model, if it goes wrong just a little bit, we're all completely fucked. And we need to constantly expand. And anyone who doesn't expand will just be overtaken by another country that doesn't want to truncate or mitigate their own capitalism. So you just have to keep on growing. What, more cars, more plastics, more fossil fuels, more disease? I mean, it just doesn't fucking stop. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but we really need to either move to another planet or invent some kind of nuclear fusion in order to save the human race. Excuse me. So, what is China kind of doing to combat the disease? What are some of the novel ways, what kind of novel methods and ways they're using to get rid of coronavirus? Well, I found this amazing article that says COVID-19 patients in China benefit from traditional Chinese medicine. Okay, the article says that traditional Chinese medicine has proven effective in the treatment of an increasing number of COVID-19 cases in China, showing that the ancient system of healing plays a complementary role to Western medicine in fighting the infection. Guess who wrote this? The motherfucking... It's a Chinese website, basically. And it's a massive Chinese website. CGTN is the name. I don't know what that stands for, but it's a huge Chinese website. And so basically that way of thinking is kind of what got us into this mess in the first place. Eating weird wild animals for some kind of strange properties that are going to make your dick harder or whatever is why we have these wet markets, which is where the disease came from. And in spite of that, in spite of the disease coming from there, China are then promoting the same kind of mumbo jumbo alternative medicine to cure the shit that this created in the first place. It's fucking insane. China are out of their fucking minds. They really are. Fucking hell. So after that article, I found another article about crazy alternative medicine that China is using to treat the viruses. This shit's fucking crazy. So look at this. Activists slam China's use of bear bile in virus treatment. Look at this bear in a cage and they're taking bile out of it. These people are fucking sick, man. What the fuck are you doing? The article says China has approved the use of bear bile to treat coronavirus patients, angering activists and raising fears it could undermine efforts to stop the illegal animal trade, which is blamed for the emergence of the new disease sweeping the globe. So you might think that after having all these weird animals in close proximity and ruining the whole world, China might stop this. But no, they're ramping up their efforts to have this weird wildlife trade to cure the pandemic. How anyone defends China, I do not fucking know. They're such cunts. CCP need to fucking go. These communist motherfuckers doing this crazy shit. So, yeah, I mean, in spite of everything I've just said, information is really, really slow to come out on coronavirus. People are still debating whether masks are okay, what the fuck's going on in other countries. Even though crazy shit's going on in other countries, when it comes to our own countries, we kind of remain oblivious. And unless it happens to us, we kind of try to continue as if it's all right. Like in Japan, people were still in the fucking bars last night. So news is really slow to come out. I guess when something is as serious as this, it makes you realize how slow the news is. I never realized before. And honestly, people, at this checkpoint in today's podcast, I want to tell you that I tried to avoid the coronavirus in the beginning. I really didn't want to see it. It was fucking everywhere. In my email, in my browser, on my phone. And I'm thinking, look, I don't care about this. I don't need to know about this. I just want to get on with my life. And it really, really bothered me that I couldn't get away from it. But then when it came to the point where I realized that this could well destroy the world economy, I started to realize the seriousness of it. And then I realized I couldn't avoid it, which is why I put the poll up on YouTube and you voted to hear my opinion on this. The news is relentless on this and it is very fear-mongering. That's the hardest part to swallow, is that it's already freaky enough as it is, but to fearmonger it is out of order. The news are having their best ratings ever. The BBC put out an article saying they're hiring more staff because they're trying to be the good guys and say, look, we're hiring during this crisis because of the uptick in visitors to their news site to see what's going on. So fear-mongering benefits these people. And you read the headlines and it's always fucking terrifying. And then towards the end of the article, you usually see some information that downplays it a little bit. But the news, although it's slow to get the proper facts, it's been relentless in its fear-mongering. And I keep getting companies sending me emails about coronavirus. It's unavoidable. It's fucking everywhere. I didn't want to make this video, but you asked for it, so here I am. And to be honest, it's good to get it off my chest. And I'm going to do this only once, so I won't have to do it again. And then we can move on to more upbeat things. Now we're going to get political, because probably the main reason I want to make this video is to counter all the partisan motherfuckers who are trying to take advantage of the coronavirus to promote their political message. And now a word from our sponsor, Asahi Dry Zero, 0% alcohol, sponsoring Tokyo 2020, which has since been cancelled. Excuse me, a man's got a drink. So, already, Democrats are opening an investigation into Trump, led by Schumer, to see if there was any malpractice during his policy when the coronavirus came along. Never let a crisis go to waste. You're going to find out through all the things I'm going to show you that the most evil people throughout history leverage crisis to their benefit to instigate all kinds of weird political agenda and rules and bureaucracy. It's fucking evil. And the Democrats tried to get rid of Trump with their bullshit Russia investigation. They tried to get rid of him with the bullshit Ukraine nonsense. And now they're going to try to get rid of him because of coronavirus. Even when Nancy Pelosi, who's basically spearheading this thing, as usual, was telling people to go to Chinatown when the coronavirus was coming to town. What the fuck is going on? So, I'm going to read you some text from a book called Liberal Fascism, which basically deconstructs all of the stuff about liberalism that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. So bear with me and I'll read this to you. So check this out. When the stock market crashed in 1929, they believed their shining moment had returned. This is talking about the Democrats. So yes, the crisis in 1929 was a chance for them to exploit and push their own policies, which is what you're seeing now. The United States in the 1920s, writes William Leuchtenberg, had almost no institutional structure to which Europeans would accord the term the state. Beyond the post office, most people had very little interaction with or dependence on the government in Washington. The New Deal by Franklin D. Roosevelt changed all that. It represented the last stage in the transformation of American liberalism, whereby the US government became a European state and liberalism a political religion. America used to be awesome, apparently. Now, if you want to run a lemonade stand, you need a fucking shitload of paperwork. You'll be taxed up the arse and you'll just be put off before it ever comes to fruition. But back in the days, you could fucking do anything. You could start a business. You could sell fruit and vegetables out the back of your fucking car. That's before the Democrats took advantage of crises and just destroyed everything in a labyrinth of red tape. The book continues. As economic policy, the New Deal was a failure. If anything, it likely prolonged the Depression, and yet we are constantly told that the New Deal remains the greatest domestic accomplishment of the United States in the 20th century. The apotheosis of liberal aspirations under Franklin Roosevelt took place not during the New Deal, but during World War II. Roosevelt, in his 1944 State of the Union address, proposed what he called a second Bill of Rights. But this was really an argument for a new Bill of Rights, turning the original on its head. The necessitous men are not free men, he declared. Therefore, the state must provide a new basis of security and prosperity. See, you need our help in a crisis. We're going to help you with all these rules and laws that we're never going to repeal. Among the new rights on offer were a useful and remunerative job, a decent home, adequate medical care, and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health, adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, and a good education. This second Bill of Rights remains the spiritual lodestar of liberal aspirations to this day. And it's true. It's all the ideological talking points of the Democrats. Everyone should have a job. Everyone should have the same medical care, social medical care. Everyone should have money, universal basic income. And you need the government to provide all of this because you can't do it on your own. So they want to hook you in, get you suckling on the government tit, and then you're with them for life. And they can intrude into every single part of your life. Why would you want to be so closely controlled by the government? It's my nightmare, and every individual's nightmare. And the people who don't want you to be an individual, and the people who want you to be under the government's thumb and controlled like in an Orwellian nightmare right now, are the people who are trying to use coronavirus to their advantage to push their weird Marxist socialist bullshit. Let me draw your attention to a tweet I found on Twitter by some random who's doing exactly that, that's being praised by liberals everywhere. This is the most terrifying tweet I've ever fucking seen. Look at this. This random woman called Kerry Ann Mendoza, said, massive news from Spain. She's well excited. Loads of people are dying. But guess what? Our weird socialist policies are now going to become normalized. She says, universal basic income is happening. And more importantly, the government's broader ambition is that basic income becomes an instrument that stays forever, that becomes a structural instrument, a permanent instrument. Huge, she says. Oh my fucking God. So what is universal basic income? Universal basic income basically means everyone gets free money every month. Now, I'm not exactly an economist, but I know about basic economics. the money in circulation is like a pie, right? And that money comes from your tax, and that makes this pie. And then when the government spends that money, you're taking out pieces of the pie. So I put my tax in there, and then they take the tax, and then they give it back to me in the form of universal income. How the fuck does that work? You can't just take money out of thin air. You're going to have to keep taking it from the pie to give it to the people, to give them a free income. But where is the money going to come from if everyone's already getting free money and has zero motivation to go to work and put more taxes into the pot or put more filling into the pie? It doesn't make any fucking sense at all. You're telling me if everyone's getting an income, anyone is going to go to work. Anyone is going to. Why would you go to work if you're getting a universal basic income? Why the fuck would you do that? No one would go to work. Then there'd be no money in the pot. You'd have the shittiest economy ever. Why can't people get their heads around this? That you can't just print free money. If you print it, then money will have no value. People will start trading in fucking animals. These are the kind of policies the Democrats are chomping at the bit to implement because of this crisis. They want a fucking crisis. They're happy the coronavirus is here. It does my nut, I tell you. More evidence that people are trying to use the coronavirus to push their political dogma and achieve their political desires, this is the worst part of the coronavirus for me. Look at this, right? Look at this shit. I can't believe what I'm reading. Headline on themirror.co.uk. Most Brits back a Brexit transition delay amid coronavirus crisis, says poll. So now some people are saying they want to stop Brexit because the coronavirus is here. You've got to be really, really careful to watch what politicians are doing and the legislation that they're passing that might never get repealed. Seriously. It's really, really dangerous shit, this is. Okay. So let me read you a little bit more text from the book Liberal Fascism to put some of this into context. It says, the utility of terror was multifaceted, but among its chief benefits was its tendency to maintain a permanent sense of crisis. Crisis is routinely identified as a core mechanism of fascism because it short-circuits debate and democratic deliberation. Hence, all fascistic movements commit considerable energy to prolonging a heightened state of emergency. Across the West, this was the most glorious boon of World War I. So it goes back to just what I was saying. Because of a crisis, it means the government can do whatever they want. Stay in your house. Or here, have loads of benefits. And now we're going to insinuate ourselves into every single facet of your life. Because before you might have resisted socialism, but now when your business is folding, you might kind of see eye to eye with us if we're offering you this money. And I'm not telling you not to take the money. You know, people have got to take the money, but there's no such thing as free money. Think about that. Seriously. Let me continue some stuff from this book, which is really, really interesting. Fascism at its core is the view that every nook and cranny of society should work together in spiritual union towards the same goals overseen by the state. Everything in the state, nothing outside of the state, is how Mussolini defined it. His own words. Mussolini coined the word totalitarian to describe not a tyrannical society, but a humane one, in which everyone is taken care of and contributes equally. And you've got people asking for universal basic income, which is part of the same thing. The book continues. It was an organic concept where every class, every individual was part of the larger whole. Big government, socialism, communism, China. Look what that brings you. The militarization of society and politics was considered simply the best available means towards this end. Anyways, if that isn't freaking you out enough, I don't know what is. There's plenty more in the book, but I think you should just buy it and read it. Liberal Fascism. It's really interesting. I don't know enough about politics to really take everything the guy says at face value, because it seems like he tries to spin everything into liberals being fascist, but he gives a lot of quotes from real fascists, Mussolini, Hitler, and compares it to what some of the old school liberals did, like FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, and the New Deal and their kind of socialist policies and the welfare state and eugenics and all that kind of stuff. Is very, very interesting. Make sure you check it out. So, yes, we're still on the subject of politics. Now, The Guardian is probably the worst left-wing newspaper in the UK. I don't know how anyone could fucking read The Guardian. I mean, I read Fox News because the left-wing media is so fucked up. But even I know Fox News is incredibly biased. I mean, it's ridiculously biased. But still, some of the people there are reasonably intellectually honest. But The Guardian is just pure ideological bullshit, cranked up to 11. So guess what? They're going to push their intersectional politics through the coronavirus. Have a look at this. Here's what The Guardian are saying. Low-paid women in the UK at high risk of coronavirus exposure. Because it's all about just pushing your bullshit identity politics as opposed to really just telling people real news that's going to help them survive. And why do I say that? Because guess what? Apparently 3 out of 4 corona infections are men. The Guardian forgot to mention that. Fuck, if only they had mentioned it, then maybe some men would still be alive. So this article is paywalled, but they're talking about why are so many more men dying from the coronavirus. Hey, I thought the patriarchy reigned supreme. I thought men had it easy. What? What was that again? So, look, after all of this, if you think we need more government, you are out of your fucking minds. No government anywhere dealt with this well. Everyone let the death spike pretty much across the board in all the top countries. I don't know how anyone would want socialism and a closer government. I mean, there's an article about, you know, what China are doing now with smartphones and stuff. So everyone in China, I think, is going to be required to have some application and on their phone. And if you can't see the Orwellian implications of that, then God help you. So look at this article on time.com. It says, inside China's smartphone health code system ruling post-coronavirus life. Since the coronavirus outbreak, life in China is ruled by a green symbol on a smartphone screen. Green is the health code that says a user is symptom-free and it's required to board a subway, check into a hotel, or just enter Wuhan, the central city of 11 million people where the pandemic began in December. I wonder what kind of information you might have to enter in order to use this app. Might it be your social security, all your tax data, all your financial data, all the data about where you're walking, who you're with, in what proximity you are to some people? I mean, if you can't see the fucking implications of this, then you are blind. The government in any country can force people to do this. So, and if you don't do it, you can't get on the train. And in order to use these applications, you have to give all your information. It's going to be big government overload, utopian socialist nightmare. That's really just happened right now in China. It pisses me off. If you want some examples of during crisis time when the government put down some heavy laws that they didn't repeal, allow me to read this to you. So, have you ever heard of the Sedition Act and the Anti-Espionage Act? If you haven't, listen to this. The Sedition Act of 1918 was an act of the United States Congress that extended the Espionage Act of 1917 to cover a broader range of offences, notably speech and the expression of opinion that cast the government or the war effort in a negative light or interfered with the sale of government bonds. What that means is even inside your own home, the government are controlling what you can and can't do. You can't say anything bad about the government in your house. That was a law that they published during 1918. It said, it forbade the use of disloyal, profane, scurrilous or abusive language about the United States government, its flag, or its armed forces, or that caused others to view the American government or its institutions with contempt. Those convicted under the Act generally received sentences of imprisonment for 5 to 20 years. So if you think that America can't become some fucked up socialist place, then think again. That act was passed in 1918. And that's like President Trump. Imagine if President Trump passed an act that said if you cussed him, you'll go to jail, even in your own home. That was already passed in America in 1918. And these are the kind of things you have to be careful. During crisis time, these kind of laws can come through. Here's some news recently regarding the US. Lawmakers are expected to enact a bill as early as next week that would allow the Prime Minister to declare a state of emergency in response to the virus. The legislation would enable local governments to control some businesses' operating hours, close schools, and instruct citizens to stay home. Authorities would also be able to use buildings and land without the consent of owners for medical purposes. So basically, the government can make you do anything it fucking wants. It can shut your business. It can close your school. It can decide your education. It can force you to stay in your own fucking house. It can take over your building. This is what communists did. They took over buildings. There was no such thing as private property. The government can take your building and land. Look, I know we might need some of this shit during a crisis, but you have to draw a line somewhere. Countries are founded upon principles. And if you take away someone's right to personal property during the time of a crisis, who's to say they'll ever repeal these kind of laws? Man, the repercussions of this are fucking insane. And I mean, if you haven't had a good enough example of how shitty socialism is with China, I mean, how you can call for more socialism in a time like this, I just don't fucking understand it. You know, China censors everything. Religion, death rates, diseases that will kill you and your children. They control over 90% of the world's medicine. Hell, they even censor your fucking movies. And people want to kowtow to them. Communism knows no bounds. It has no borders. The Chinese Communist Party and Corona have a lot in common. Just imagine what they'd do to America if they took it over. Welcome to a hell beyond hell. China want to take over the fucking world, basically. They're an evil communist regime. And we've been kowtowing to them for the last 20 years. So much of our production is in their hands. It's fucking unthinkable. So, all right, let's keep going with the political rant, shall we? There was a relief bill, as I'm sure you heard, where there was a big stimulus package that's injected into the United States that's going to help out small businesses and people who have lost their income. But guess what? It was delayed by 3 or 4 days because the relief bill had a liberal shopping list in it with global warming, Green New Deal and immigrant support bullshit in it while people were dying. So the Democrats stalled a stimulus bill while people were dying because they wanted to hold the president over a barrel and squeeze in some laws and legislation that had nothing to do with the coronavirus, which is pretty disgusting, really. So this is all getting a bit random now, but going back to the whole kind of Orwellian angle of things where we're all being monitored and we've got applications on our phone that say whether we can get the train or whether we can't. Guess what Facebook are doing? Have a look at this. Facebook releases data tools to help researchers track impacts of social distancing. The social networking giant also hopes the tools will help predict where coronavirus will spread next. Facebook has launched a set of tools that use anonymized location data collected from users in a bid to help researchers better understand where the coronavirus outbreak could spread next and the effectiveness of social distancing measures. The new tools, collectively called Disease Prevention Maps, are 3 separate aggregated data sets that provide information on how people move and interact with each other. Like Google's data tool, which uses smartphone location data, Facebook's new tools use data on population movements and connectedness to help researchers identify trends and patterns regarding coronavirus. Oh my fucking God. So already, with no announcement, all of our phones are transmitting data directly to the government with such precision, it knows how close the next motherfucker is to us. And you're telling me that they're going to repeal this shit when this virus goes away? Of course they're not. They want to know everything about us. They want to know who we're with, where we're spending our money, what we're fucking doing. This already happened. This already happened. Do you remember when we signed all of our data away on dating apps and all that shit, and it was sold off en masse to information companies so they can advertise to us? And then God knows who else got hold of the data, including the government. This is the same shit all over again without our permission. This is what I'm talking about. These things will not get repealed. And then the government's constantly tracking where we are. Who wants that? Who wants a government who's always watching where we are? Imagine they start putting some insane policies forward. Then they're going to say, oh, you didn't do this today, or you didn't do that, or you transgressed. We will be living in a fucking George Orwell novel. Fucking hell, man. Crazy shit going on. One person who gave me a lot of joy and someone I can always count on is Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter, one of my heroes. I love his take on this. This is his tweet. So someone did a tweet and said, spoke to Chinese Premier this morning to thank China for sending essential medical supplies. Further shipments are on their way. Ireland has offered to help China in research and maintain close contact to flatten the curve. And then Conor McGregor, the fighter, said, take back this thank you and your offer of assistance this instant. It's barbaric what has been done here all the way throughout this pandemic. Barbaric. Hashtag flatten their nose. Yes, Conor. Yes, mate. That's what I'm talking about. Chinese Communist Party can get fucked. Fuck the Communist Party who did this to us. Fuck them. Stand up for yourself. Stop kissing their fucking ass. That's what I'm talking about. So I did like to see that. I like to see Conor McGregor's tweet. Someone else who did a tweet is the far Marxist socialist left, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She didn't waste this opportunity to try to score points with the black and brown community to try to be their white knight and savior because she needs their votes, because the party who she represents hasn't won the white vote since the 1960s. Here's her tweet. COVID, this is how she talks. COVID deaths are disproportionately spiking in black and brown communities. Why? Because the chronic toll of redlining, environmental racism. What? Let me say that again. Environmental racism, wealth gap, etc. are underlying health conditions. Inequality is a comorbidity. Wow, you used a big word. It must be true. COVID relief should be drafted with a lens of repatriations. Wow, you got a fucking quadruple word score there. You got black and brown people are weak. You got that in there. You got the wealth gap in there. You got racism in there. And you got repatriations. You know, you're going to help them. You're going to save them because of the slavery. These people are like robots. They just say the same things over and over again. Minorities, wealth gap, social health gap. They're completely out of their minds. So don't listen to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Listen to Conor fucking McGregor. So I've been chatting to my mates about this online. I showed that to my mate, and his response was, these people can't even stop this nonsense during a global pandemic. You can imagine Ocasio-Cortez still tweeting this nonsense in the aftermath of a North Korean nuke attack, saying nuclear fallout disproportionately affects people of color and the LGBTQ community. See, far leftists, they exploit minorities and exploit gay people and exploit women to use them as a shield to hide behind. So when they say they're nonsense and people attack them, they can be defended and say, oh, you're hurting the minorities. Oh, you hate women. That's why you're disagreeing with me. They just use these people to defend their ridiculous ideological talking points. So I do like chatting to my mates about the corona on my chat apps. So I do. And yeah, so as you can see, this is an opportunity for people to spout their ideological drivel that brainwash them. It's always middle-class people that go for this socialism shit. And it's always the middle-class losers, you know, who in the 9-to-5 rat race, they don't have any individualism. And rather than accept that they've given up on their dream because they're not brave enough to follow it, they try to normalize just a boring kind of socialist utopia where everyone just goes to work and does it for everyone else and just does that until the day that they die. Those are the people who are being the noisiest about pushing the socialist policies. And they've got a predetermined conclusion. Their predetermined conclusion is big business bad, all big business bad, high-paid CEOs bad, capitalism bad. And then they just go out to find things to prove their point. Unlike a rational person or like a scientist who they have a kind of theory, but then they try to disprove it with all the evidence available. And only when they absolutely can't disprove it, then they push their point forward. That's what these people don't do. You know, saying you want socialism is like saying you want to be mastered, like you want to be somebody's bitch. Or it's just pretending you want to help other people to make yourself feel better and give yourself a false sense of purpose. These minorities, you know, they don't need your white knight middle class guilt to fill your meaningless life. Seriously, you really don't give a fuck about them, but you use them to push your ideology. So fuck all that. And I've got to say, Trump was right about the whole manufacturing in China thing. Do you remember before this was going on? He was saying, like, we've got to take a lot of the manufacturing out of China. We've got to give it back to America. He was bang on with that. And people were saying he was racist. He was right, because we're too over-reliant on China. And speaking of China and their Orwellian practices, the UK, not to be outdone in Orwellian shit, they seem to admire China. They've got drones out in the UK shaming people who are breaking quarantine, which is basically what China are doing. They've got drones, they've got megaphones, like all the fucking evil eyes are watching you. It's already happening in the UK, and that's one of the reasons why I left the UK. I saw this shit coming a mile away. Look at this. UK coronavirus response criticised as people are filmed by drones and stopped while shopping. The coronavirus crisis has upended norms in almost every Western society, giving rise to ways of life that would have seemed unimaginably Orwellian just a month ago. Drones filming couples as they walk their dogs through the countryside, drivers sent to court after being spotted on the road, a lawmaker admonished in public for dropping in on his father's 78th birthday. And you're telling me that in a time of crisis, people aren't taking the piss to push these horrific big government laws, and you're telling me they're going to repeal these? The drones are going to go away when the coronavirus goes away? Because it's never going to go away, right? There's always a risk of the coronavirus being there. So all these drones going out and about that have spotted someone who hasn't paid the right amount of tax last year and is going to fuck them up for that, just so happen to, you know, be going across their path, trying to help them from the coronavirus. See where I'm going with this? As I said, people have got to be really fucking careful with the laws they try to push through. And you better pray they fucking get repealed. You better pray. That's why we pray. Pray. So yeah, that's happening in the UK. There's an article I read recently about the first AI arrest in the UK. So cameras in town centres scanned like hundreds of thousands of faces and arrested someone just using AI. That's already happening in the UK. Hundreds of thousands of faces are being scanned. So you're going to get fucking pulled up for anything in the future. You walk out of your house and like a red light will go off and it will say like, you said a dirty word in your house that was picked up on Xbox Live. You're going to fucking jail for hate speech. That is where this shit will go. That's where far left extreme politics will end up if we don't fucking fight back against this shit. And you're seeing loads of people trying to push this using coronavirus as an excuse. And I'm not absolving Trump because he's at the forefront of it all. And I'm sure he's going to push a lot of things as well that should be repealed. Yes, the UK. Now, Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister. Now, Boris, he got the coronavirus. Now, when he got it, I saw this thing about some bird on British TV giggling. She couldn't contain her laughter. I read in some lefty newspaper about, ha ha ha, Boris got the coronavirus. And then there's loads of tweets kind of making jokes about Boris. What the fuck is wrong with you? The guy's got a disease that could fucking kill him, for fuck's sake. I just don't get it, man. Can't you just wish him better? You know, before you make these hit pieces and use his sickness as a chance to beat his policies and push leftist policies. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, fuck off for a second. You can't wait for the leader of your country to recover before you see this as an opportunity to push your ideological talking points. It's funny, like I said that to my mate who's like a real lefty, who I love. He's my best mate. And his opinions don't make me dislike him at all. But I'll tell you what he said. I raised this to him because I thought, well, maybe he's going to have some sense and say, yeah, well, he's sick and we shouldn't cuss him. And then he tried to justify it. And he said, well, Boris Johnson tried to dismantle the NHS. NHS is our socialist health service, which is a piece of shit. And it was a piece of shit before anyone started dismantling it. I'll tell you why in a minute. A typical, like I said, liberal talking point. Socialist healthcare, it is good, must have socialist healthcare. So leftists love socialist healthcare. So Boris Johnson apparently doesn't like socialist healthcare. And so when he got the coronavirus, my friend said, well, you know, he tried to, you know, get rid of the NHS But now he's got the disease. Now he needs the NHS. So hang on, hold up a minute, yeah. Before you kind of use this guy dying and the coronavirus to kind of push your political talking point, can't you just say, hold off and say, yeah, the guy's got sick. I hope he gets better. No, you just can't wait. You can't wait. So because it proves your political talking point, it's all right that our prime minister might die because of this disease. And these are the same people that wish Trump would die, or, that fucking comedian who picked up a severed head, a pretend severed head of Trump on her Twitter. It's all right to kind of fantasize someone will die to push your political talking point. I mean, modern morals, as far as the liberal left go, are completely bankrupt. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. But at least on the right, a lot of them believe in God. They have a code. They have the 10 Commandments. They have some kind of shared morals. Liberals obviously have no fucking morals whatsoever at all, if they're laughing that the prime minister might die because of coronavirus. So I guess now, that's one of the most shocking things. And the fact that my mates believe that makes it even more shocking. I mean, at what point is it okay? At what point is it not okay when you've got the coronavirus? Because Boris has got it. My first thought is, well, if it gets worse and he dies, that would be terrible. So, of course, I'm not going to cuss him. But for other people with no morals, like most on the liberal left, so long as he's not dying, then it's all right, yeah? But, at what point is it so it's not all right to exploit Boris Johnson to push your political talking points? When he's on a ventilator, then maybe you should kind of back off a bit. No morals whatsoever. Oh, and guess what? Boris Johnson, after all of that, now he's gone into intensive care. So maybe I should call him my mate and say, oh, now are you going to tell me about why he's such a cunt and why this is funny? Because he doesn't like socialist healthcare. Is this an even better chance for you to kind of talk about your political beliefs, to exploit this dying guy, the irony of him dying in the care of the people that he was supposedly dismantling? I'll give you some really scary stat. I was watching the Ben Shapiro show, and he seems to be one of the only people trying to seriously report on this and ask all the good questions. He's getting loads of professionals in on his show. He's trying to keep it as like bipartisan as possible. And he had a top doctor on there, and he asked the stats. People who go on ventilators, how many survive? Trump was asked this, and he goes, I didn't answer it. This guy did. He said, from China, and as you know, take all their stats with a pinch of shite, 90% of people who end up on ventilators die. 90%. He said in other countries, it's 50% and up. So basically, at least half of the people who end up on a ventilator die, right? See, I didn't know that, because there's all this news about, we got to get loads of ventilators, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, we're going to run out. So even if you have 40,000 ventilators and use them all, at least 20,000 people are going to die. God forbid anyone ends up on one of those. So Boris Johnson is in intensive care. And honestly, I reckon he's going to die. Because the news, there's so much smoke, there has to be fire. At first, Boris is sick and this, that, and a third. And then there's a bit more news. And then, now he's going into intensive care, but he's okay. Going into intensive care with the coronavirus is really not a good sign. There's news saying he's not on a ventilator, which is fucking great news. But I smell something dodgy here, and I just think something bad is going to happen to him. And, oh, man. I mean, this disease is fucking everywhere, because so many famous people have got it, right? Like Pink fucking got it. Her daughter got it. Like various people got it. The fucking Boris Johnson's got it. So many officials have got it. I mean, it's fucking everywhere. Imagine how many unreported cases there are. So that sucks that Boris has got it, and I hope he's all right. And so, yeah, ventilators. We're going to need some cures, right? And the FDA issued emergency authorization of hydroxychloroquine. Guess what? But Politico ran a headline saying, drugs championed by Trump for treatment despite scant evidence. So there's this drug that might save people's lives, but Orange Man bad, and we don't care if people die so long as we maintain the narrative that Orange Man bad. So let's question Trump trying to help people with this medicine. Emergency use authorization means people are dying on their deathbeds. And you know what would be better than death is trying a drug that has showed promise, although no clinical trials, for people who want to try it. Politico, why would the FDA waive these rules? Because people are dying. These headlines are fucking insanity. And now we come back to the WHO, World Health Organization. Just to give you some more stats on them, in the pockets of China, the International Committee, 15% of them is funded by the United States. So think how much money the United States was giving them. And all they did was not tell the United States, Taiwan's advice, that a killer death disease is about to tank your economy and kill loads of your citizens. They had one fucking job. They had one fucking job, which is to report on a pandemic. And look at this tweet. I'll show you the tweet that I referenced earlier, because I wouldn't say something without footnotes now, would I? They say preliminary investigations conducted by the Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus. That was on 14th of January. So fuck you, World Health Organization. There's a video of a Taiwanese journalist or someone who's important interviewing one of the main people from the WHO, and she asked them if they recognize Taiwan as a country, and the guy pretends not to hear them and cuts the phone call. China is fucking everywhere, and fuck anyone who panders to China, especially Hollywood as well, and all these movie companies, right? So Tom Cruise, Paramount Pictures consigned fucking Taiwan down the memory hole, and are also in China's pockets, right? The Japanese, and hear me out, the Japanese and Taiwanese flag patches featured on Tom Cruise's jacket in the original Top Gun film appear to have been removed from the 2020 sequel, prompting fans to speculate that Paramount Pictures, set to release the movie, is the latest US company to appease China. And Tom Cruise is okay with that. So Tom Cruise is... So look, would you work for a serial killer? If your boss is paying you loads of money, but he's like killing loads of people, like killing loads of Muslims, putting them in concentration camps, and like, you know, throwing people in gulags for saying something bad about them, would you work for someone like that? Because Tom Cruise does, Paramount Pictures does, and pretty much anyone who sees those movies do. And so does the World Health Organization. So can we stop fucking pandering to China, for fuck's sake? And then ironically, the Hollywood elites are the ones telling you to be all nicey-nicey to them. You know, I met a girl from Hong Kong. I banged her a couple of months ago. And I asked her about China. Just started crying. Merely the mention of the word China, she was in fucking tears. You know, the Hong Kong riots, China like killing ordinary people, and people do fucking business with China. Well done, guys. Well done. So my mouth is getting so dry because I've been doing so much nattering. I don't have any drink, and all I've got is this massive thing of honey, and I don't think that's going to quench my thirst, but I'll keep going. Another thing that really gets my goat is companies trying to pretend to be your friend and support the community when they really want to get your money, and they're just desperately trying to stay afloat during the coronavirus. Look, you can just be upfront. You can say, look, the coronavirus is hitting everyone hard. We appreciate your continued support. Here's an offer. Or just offer people an offer. Just putting coronavirus is just going to associate your brand with negativity. You don't need to do that. Just make me an offer. I'm going to see it anyway because I'm at home all the fucking time. But aren't you sick of brands trying to pander to you because of the coronavirus? Airbnb, biggest blue chip private company in the world, a Californian company who espouses diversity and inclusion and basically socialism and would vote for AOC and Bernie Sanders in a fucking heartbeat. They've done nothing more than offer a tiny shitty amount of money. They offered like $8 million to hosts out of the pockets of the founders who are fucking billionaires. And that will cover like a month's rent for Airbnb hosts. They're doing absolutely nothing. And these are the people that promote socialism the most. That's the fucking irony. And that's why socialism fails, because it ring fences the owners who become corrupt. Why can't people see that absolute power corrupts absolutely? You end up with the richest getting even fucking richer in a socialist kind of scheme, and the average people will get even poorer. Capitalism isn't perfect, but it's the best that we've got, I'm afraid. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we've got plenty of companies sending out these messages, and you know, if you want to keep your brand afloat during the corona crisis, I've got some advice for you. Don't mention coronavirus, okay? You know what happened with Corona beer? I could have told you that before. Nobody is buying it. And everyone's like, why isn't anyone? It's so stupid. It doesn't have Corona in it. It's because people don't like negative shit. If you go on a date with a bird and she's talking about running up behind herself and stabbing herself in third person in some kind of weird nightmare, you're not going to really like them very much because she's a psychopath and it's just full of negative vocabulary. This really happened to me yesterday, actually. And in the same light, if you talk about coronavirus and death with your brand, people aren't going to like it. People are at home anyways. Just make a special offer and people are going to take it. For example, I'll show you some of the companies doing this. It really fucking pisses me off. Native Instruments. These people make music production software, which is like, it's made for people who have a 20/20 vision and who are in a constant 1,000-yard stare because their interfaces have text that is like size 3 Helvetica. Look, they sent me this article. Stay home, stay creative. Oh, it's so liberal. Like, it's like talking to children. Here's your crayons. You can be creative in the school. Fuck off. Speak to me like a fucking adult. They said, Native team shares tips for homebound music makers. I can't make music on my own. Please help me. They say, at the time of writing, measures to control the COVID-19 pandemic are forcing much of the world into unprecedented period of restriction, isolation, and uncertainty. Thanks, music production software, for reminding me the world is fucked. So we've collected some ways that you, as a musician, DJ, or producer, can take care of yourself. Support the electronic music community. So yeah, we're all in a big community. They want your fucking money. And make most of your time indoors. Thanks. So they advise, do something for yourself. There's plenty of good advice out there for your own safety and sanity. Wash your hands, call your loved ones, establish a routine. But once you've taken care of the essentials, it's likely you're finding yourself with a fair amount of free time. I'm not 3 years old, you fucking twat. And then look, at the end of this post, check out this for free, Analog Dreams for free. We're giving you something for free. Beware the free meal. That's one of the great laws of the 48 laws of power. Beware the free meal. There is no free meal. They want to get you on the drip so they get more of your fucking money. The thing you need most right now is money. Don't spend any on music production software with these twats. They also advise, do something for the electronic music community. Yeah, we're one of you, man. So like, we're not just a business who wants to take your money. We're your friends. Like, give me £300 for the latest software. Do something for society. Go and fuck yourself, man. Look, I'm an adult. I'm an individual. I decide how to spend my own fucking time and live my life. Sell me your fucking music production software and fuck off. That is 101 on how not to advertise. Look, SoundCloud are at it too, people. Dear SoundCloud creators, since our founding, SoundCloud's mission has been to give people the power to share, connect and grow through music. As the coronavirus has unfolded, we've seen a global outpouring of tracks with a 50% surge in creators uploading in the past month alone. But behind this creative response, we know there continues to be financial loss and uncertainty for our creator community. And so then after that, they proceed to try to sell you something, but it's a half price. We're doing you a favor. Translation, we're losing loads of money and we're desperate to make some money. So like, Corona's really bad, but like, we're all in it together. Please, can I have some money? Go and fuck yourself. You got way more money than me and you're going to get a fucking bailout, you cunt. You're going to get massive handout from the government. Ram Records, God bless Ram Records, like one of my favorite record labels. But since they sold their soul to a major label, look what they're saying. Self-isolating, need something to do, we got you. We're starting a Ram T competition where anyone can submit their drawings, designs for an original Ram t-shirt. The whole point of this is to sell t-shirts because only one person's going to win the competition. The other people who don't win, oh, fuck it, they're going to buy one. Mate, yeah, okay, yeah, just don't use the coronavirus to sell your products. If you're a news outlet, it's fucking amazing. You get loads from advertising that way, but just to take a product like a music product and just slap corona on there, no, guys, no, you're all fucking up here. You're fucking up. If you didn't do that and just release loads of competitions and just loads of things for people to do, that's all you need to do. Really, you're overcomplicating it. And there's more shit. There's so many companies doing that. I can't be asked to go into it. So next I want to talk about the economic sinkhole. So, man, this actually is probably even worse than the political side of it. This is the scariest thing for me is, this is my layman's take. So at the beginning, people were saying it's just like the flu. This is what I said right from the beginning, the whole time. I said, What worries me is if businesses start to fail, because when one business fails, that means all of their staff get laid off. And if that happens to many companies, you've got loads of staff getting laid off, and then it will become an exponential downward spiral of businesses closing. When you have loads of unemployed people, there's no money in society. No one's going out. No one's spending any money. No one's putting any money into the economy. And that means other businesses will just fail because no one's buying their products. And then you have even more businesses failing. And then there's no coming back. Yeah, they're going to grow back. No, you can't rebuild a massive company like that. Those companies took so long to create. During the 75-year big sleep since World War II, where basically nothing really that bad has happened at all. We've had a free reign to do whatever we want, and those companies are built up during that time. They're not going to come back for God knows how long. If that happens, I mean, we might be fucked for the rest of our lives. Seriously, we might be going through depression for the rest of our fucking lives. That might be all we know. That is the main danger here. And it's different from the 2008 crisis. It was all based on like subprime mortgages and shit. And this, you kind of feel if there was a vaccine, it could bounce back quite quickly, but it won't if loads of businesses exponentially start failing. And if you're looking at the damage this does to the economy, it is unbelievable. Like if you look at the numbers, it's fucking eye-watering. There's basically no flights anywhere right now. Airlines are making no money. Tourism industry is like a huge significant percentage of Italy's GDP. Zero, it's gone. Even if this goes away in the next 3 months, and it won't. There's going to be a 2-week quarantine period of loads of countries. China already has that. China, no deaths, but no one can come into their country without a 2-week quarantine, which means no one's going to go on holiday. And even if you could go on holiday, after this economic sinkhole, people can't even pay their rent. Going on holiday is the bottom of the list of anyone's priorities. And so the entire tourism industry will fail. Restaurants are like predicated upon that. Restaurants will disappear. So many things will disappear. This is the main fucking danger. And if this thing doesn't go away and it just keeps on coming back and quarantine is just staving off the inevitable, it's going to get to a point where we're either going to have to go to work and risk getting coronavirus and just overload our hospital systems and let loads of old people die, or let the economy disappear and just destroy generations so old people can survive. Not a nice choice. I mean, even elephants are fucking dying in Thailand because there's no tourists to go there, so they can't run the parks and not going to be able to feed the fucking elephants. The Premier League, all football games, all sport is cancelled. The way the world works is, with capitalism, everyone's always on the edge. People are setting the price as high as they can before people don't pay. And so therefore people are always paying a lot of money and no one really has a lot of savings. And no one has ever planned for the entire global economy to stop all at the same time, which means everything could just fall down and topple. Sports teams, massive wages and contracts for all their players and managers. They need gate receipts from fans. They need the TV rights money. None of that is coming in. Who knows when they're going to be able to play again? Once one player gets the coronavirus, the whole fucking league's got it. You've got no football again. This could go on forever until there's a vaccine. It can destroy the economy. Shops, bars, restaurants. My friend's working in recruitment, in hiring. He gets 250 placements a month. This month, 2. And it's just the beginning. Let me show you US jobless claims as they hit a new record. You want to see eye-watering? Here we go. Look at this, 1970 to 1990, look at this fucking jump. So there was like 350,000 weekly average a few months ago, and now there's 6,650,000 jobless claims in the space of a couple of weeks, and we are just fucking getting started. That is the craziest shit. Debenhams, massive shitty, albeit shitty, retail department store in London. It's just filed for bankruptcy. Major UK retailer, fucking loads of them. 22,000 jobs down the toilet. This is just the beginning. SoftBank, major Japanese company, invested hugely in the gig market like Airbnb, Uber Eats. They've gambled and lost. What else is annoying? Celebrities telling us to stay at home while chilling, sitting on their millions. Mike Tyson, I love you, Mike. I love you. Mwah! I love you, Mike Tyson. But Mike Tyson's guilty of doing it too. I've watched his podcast, and Have you noticed these celebrities on their podcasts? They've always got like a wry smile in the corner of their mouth. It's like these extrovert millionaires find it kind of exciting that there's coronavirus because they know they do not have to ever go outside. They can chill there until it all blows over. And all the celebs saying, stay inside, don't go out. Well, if the people stay inside, they're going to go bankrupt and their life is over. But you can stay inside because you've got millions and you're telling the people to stay inside. Go and fuck yourself, celebrities. Go and fuck yourself. I'll spare you the videos on this crap. But yeah, so celebrities are being really, really annoying about this stuff. You know, Pink, she had the virus and she ended her tweet. Please stop, full stop, stay, full stop, home. Fuck off, Pink. I want to go outside. Yeah, she gave $1 million. But do you know what corporate philanthropy is? Well, you know, corporate philanthropy, like Pink getting corona, then telling people to stay at home and donating $1 million to the cause, does provide support to worthy causes. And they are intended as much to increase their public visibility and improve kind of morale with their fans and engagement. So, Pink, well done for donating. But yeah. So what's happening in Japan, where I'm at? So it's fucking weird out here. We went into lockdown today on Wednesday, 8th of April. And Japan is fucking pathetic when it comes to stuff. They said they're not going to force people to stay in their house, which is actually kind of good for me. But they said, we're not going to force people, but we just hope people respect authority and do it. Don't think that's going to work. So we're really late with it all. Look, Japan had the Olympics coming up and there was officials on record saying cancelling the Olympics is unthinkable. The Olympics is basically the most corrupt organisation in the world. No, I don't fucking choose to have the Olympics here. The Olympics go here. All the tax money is then used and funneled into the pockets of the construction companies and everyone who's working at the Olympics. They get fucking minted. And there's, you know, it doesn't necessarily help the economy. It just helps a lot of corporate people get rich really quickly. And they didn't want to see the Olympics cancelled. So many people say Tokyo downplayed the stats. And as soon as the Olympics were postponed, then suddenly the stats started rising. I wonder why. The government warned people to stay at home. If you don't stay at home now, then you're going to end up staying at home for a long time. But everyone went out to see the cherry blossom, like thousands of people. This is what I'm saying, like Japan and America, we had warnings of other countries, but unless it starts happening around you, you don't really heed the warnings, which is fucking retarded. So everyone went out to celebrate cherry blossom. Even last night before this lockdown was announced, this kind of quasi lockdown, there's people in my building having like office parties and shit. What are you fucking cunts doing? So I don't know, in Japan the stats are way less. We've got a really strong health culture here. People take health checks all the fucking time. I've never had a health check because I'm so healthy, baby. And people wear masks here as a habit. You see them everywhere. And so maybe that's one of the reasons why the stats are low, or maybe Japan's covering it up. But how do you cover it up? That means all the old people are just dying at home. All the toilet paper's gone, like where you are. Still, even now, it's just never going to come back. But I was always really nice to the guys who work in 7-Eleven. I'm like, what's up? Like, buy them a snack and shit just to say thanks, because it's a harsh job. So they always just give me toilet paper and masks and shit. So that's cool. Everything's fucked. Even the Yakuza fucked. I was speaking to some Yakuza and I was like, mate, you know, all of my passive income that I've built up through nefarious means is reduced to zero during Corona. You know, I'm thinking about, you know, becoming a male prostitute to service the older ladies of Tokyo. Got any work for me? And they just said, no, like prostitution game is dead. Grey market is dead. So even the Yakuza are fucked. I want to draw your attention to the Scramble Crossing, which is like the most famous crossing in the world in Japan. So have a look at this, right? I just realized this is the ultimate fucking like, infectious pandemic petri dish in the middle of Shibuya near my studio. So it's quite funny, isn't it? This was kind of praised as a solution to kind of easing congestion, but actually it's the most conducive thing possible for spreading the coronavirus. And to really illustrate my point, I want to take you to an article that was made by the Washington Post. Now, the Washington Post are usually shit, But this was actually really, really fucking good. So they modeled a kind of exponential coronavirus spread to explain how to flatten the curve and stuff. And they did all these diagrams. Look at this diagram they did. Doesn't that remind you of that fucking crossing that I just showed you? It shows you, like, with no quarantine, how quickly the virus spreads. And it's like loads of people get infected. That's basically the center of Shibuya, where I walk all the time. So that's kind of what's going on in Japan. I mean, they just announced the lockdown, and it's not really clear, but I found one part really, really funny. They announced the lockdown, but they said, we're going to announce on Friday which businesses to close. Japan has so much bureaucracy. They get like a stack of bureaucratic paperwork and like put it around their cock and like jizz all over. They love paperwork so fucking much. So they announced the lockdown, but they still haven't announced it properly. And on Friday, they're going to say which businesses have to close. The thing which made me laugh was they said that Nishimura Yasutoshi, the minister in charge of the coronavirus measures, said in the Diet on Tuesday that the central government intends to have barbershops, beauty salons and DIY stores continue to operate. He said they are businesses indispensable in ensuring the stable running of people's daily lives. So in Japan, that's why the bitches are so hot, because the beauty salons are indispensable in ensuring the stable running of a daily life, right up there with DIY stores. So Japanese people, most superficial people on earth, that's why I fit in here so well. So yeah, pretty funny out here. I mean, okay, so let's try to bring this to a close, shall we? Because my mouth's getting so fucking dry. I mean, I haven't been sick in 15 years. I train 5 or 6 days a week. I don't eat chocolate. I don't eat sweets. I don't eat pizza. I don't eat refined carbs. I don't really drink alcohol. I don't smoke. Athletes have gotten this, but no athletes have died for it that are young. The young people that died from it, there's like 5 that have been in the news, 5 or 6 really, like high profile cases. The way that I see it is this. Either you could have no chance of dying and loads of anxiety, which means like stay in your house 24/7 and just fucking go mad. Or you could have no anxiety and have a real chance of getting the disease and a very small chance of dying, which is basically going out and working. And where do you draw the line? You know, at what % chance of death does it become unacceptable to go outside and you just stay inside and worry all the time? I mean, this is my philosophy anyways, you know, like I used to piss off my ex-girlfriend. I'd walk in the road and like, whatever, I just go about, and she's like, oh, you need to take care of yourself. And I'm like, no, if I was to take more care and be more anxious, I'd have a much higher chance of survival, but I'd rather take the very real chance of dying younger and having an accident happen to me and have less anxiety than have loads of anxiety being completely safe. And I think, you know, that's what it comes down to for me. But whether the government allows people to go out at some point, I don't know. But if you try to force people to stay indoors indefinitely, you're going to see some kind of riots and shit. Who knows what's going to happen? And I think the economy stopping is worse than old people dying. That's true. So that's what I think. If I was old, I'd want the economy to continue. I've had my time. And I'd say, youngsters, you go out, you do your living, you do your thing, and I'll stay at home. This is like a war, and we got to fight, and it was hardly like, you know, getting off the fucking boat and storming Normandy, is it? But, you know, the young people, we've got to go out and we've got to fight this war, and we've got to keep the economy going for the generations to come, and for us. And, you know, it doesn't mean I don't protect my own. My mum is housebound, she knows what's up. But my mum would want that as well. My mum would want people, you know, she said that. She said, like, she's had her time, and it's like, you know, the young people have got to go out and we've got to work. And like, don't preach morals to me. Do not fucking preach morals to me. We live in a godless society where government is religion, social justice, all that crap. You know, people worship that shit with the same blind faith applied to religion. And that means that basically all morals are relative in a godless world. And if you don't believe in the universal code of the Bible or religious scripture, then you can get fucked with what you think is morally acceptable if you disagree with what I've just said. And since I'm not religious and morals are relative, then what does it matter if people get sick and die? Ultimately, if the alternative is economy and everyone's lives are ruined for generations. That's the dark reality that I'm willing to admit. I don't want anyone to die. I don't want to make these choices, but I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to going to work and getting the coronavirus, or losing your job and not getting the coronavirus. And if the government's going to try to enforce that, I think people should fucking rise up and kick some ass. Others will tell you that's wrong because that it feels bad. We've all just got to stay at home forever. Those are it's the collective group thing. Spare me that shit. I mean, morals come from Judeo-Christian culture, basically. So don't try to give me all this moral stuff about staying inside during quarantine. It's really interesting. Like, all this kind of moral stuff brings up Darwinian shit, survival of the fittest, eugenics, this is kind of eugenics at its finest, really, isn't it? The strong will survive, the weak will die, and it's fucking ugly and it's fucking horrible. But it is what it is. The strong will survive, the weak will perish. And it is what it is. So, I don't believe in God, so all of this is ultimately inconsequential, because one day I'm going to be dead and no one else will remember any of it. And that's dark and that's Nietzschean, but that's what I believe. And I'll draw your attention to a tweet I made on the 25th of March, a couple of weeks ago. And I said this: what would you rather? Get coronavirus, lose your job? That's what it will come down to. As long as the government don't force you to stay in your house forever, which would be even worse. The Great Depression, people who lived through that, they lived the rest of their lives in the shadow of a depression. They had 28% unemployment, and we're looking at more than 30 if this continues. What's going on now dwarfs 9/11 in terms of size and impact for the USA and the whole world, every fucking country. This could fuck you for the rest of your life. And there could be 20 million jobs lost by April the 12th, apparently. That's the latest news. So unfortunately, there's more questions than answers right now. As we said, we don't know about the second wave. We got to account for that. That's really important. And yeah, well, what can I say? If you want more big government after all this, you're out of your mind, in my opinion. They've proven they have no idea what the fuck is going on. So the final bit of advice on all of this is my mum's advice. I'm just going to tell you what my mum said, because mums know best. My mum said, I remember Chernobyl. Clouds of rain moved towards Britain, contaminating some parts of the UK. Panic buying set in for powdered milk and water. This went on for ages until the grounds were safe again, but that made sense. Corona is just a virus, so panic buying is not really necessary. Well, I guess she's right. We don't need to panic buy because there's enough food for all of us. But the point is that there have been disasters before and they have passed. And just count your lucky stars. This virus doesn't have some extremely high fatality rate. And while we wait for a vaccine and while we pray and have faith that it disappears like some of these other coronaviruses by the summer, we've just got to stay calm and keep it in the day. And, keep your ear to the ground, be aware of what's going on, is my advice. And make sure you speak to your family, speak to your loved ones, speak to your friends, and play lots of video games and keep safe. So, feels like I've got quite a load off my chest today. That is my unprofessional, anecdotal opinion on the coronavirus. There's other shit I could talk to you about, but my mouth is so dry, I think we should call it a night there. It's 1:39 in the morning. So, yeah, I've been Johnny Massacre. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do, like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, because that's what all those other cunts tell you to do. And yeah, I'll be seeing you on the next one. The next one will be totally non-coronavirus related. Thanks for sticking with me this far, and I'll be seeing you very soon.